Right, hello, so I just thought I'd do a video as like an overview of Project Cars, so the main features and the menus and all that sort of thing, because a lot of people have wondered what the game's like and whether it's the sort of thing that they're into or not. A lot of people don't like it, but I will go into this in a minute. So in terms of the menu, it's organised into blocks, it's quite well organised actually. It's interesting enough without being absolutely hectic, so that's good. You've got the career block on the left here, and the blocks below just say new and sort of load and delete. You have sort of your quick race options here, so you can go into a solo race or you can go into free practice, which I do quite a bit of. It's worth doing that to get used to certain cars or certain tracks. Below where it says free practice there's also a sort of block that's not there that says coming soon. Now I've got no idea what that is. I've asked a few people, they don't know either. I'll try and look into it, but I don't know what that is yet. Probably be good though. Over here, your online sort of options. You can just go into an online sort of viewing screen, and then below that you can enter a random online lobby, or you can create your own. And then over here, this driver network option, which is, I think it just, well, it's for your offline standings and statistics and all that sort of thing, and then comparing you with friends, what times you've got on certain tracks, all that sort of information. And below that, a time trial mode. I've not actually tried this yet, but I'd imagine you'll have sort of easy, medium and hard goals on different tracks for different cars, and you'll have to try and match a certain time. Or it could be one of those where, I've seen it on a few other games where you've got some of the developers had a crack at sort of a lap around a certain circuit, and you've got to try and beat their time. Completely different game, but I remember doing something like that on MotorStorm at some point. So, oh yeah, and there's also a separate sort of screen which you can switch to. This one here, so you can manage your sort of garage, look at what cars you've got, and your liveries available for each one. You can change your profile over here, and you can sort of look at your stats. Not really sure what that is. I think, oh yeah, it says check for add-ons. That is sort of DLC, I would guess, or sort of updates and information. And then your options and help over here, which you'll see a standard thing. Originally I was over here and I'm thinking, oh god, where's the options? And I just completely missed the fact that it said at the top, it says play now, and it also says my home. So that's quite a good way they've divided it, keeping, you know, the racing separate from all the settings and that malarkey, so that's good. In terms of specifics, probably something that's worth going into first is the career. It's not linear or fixed like it is on a lot of other racing games. When you start your career, you can select which sort of discipline you want to begin in. So if you wanted to start in go-karts, you could, but by the same token, if you wanted to start in Le Mans prototypes, you could. Now, go-karts, as much as I like them, not my favourite sort of thing. And Le Mans prototypes, I love those, but I thought they were, for the first time I was playing, a little bit too much too soon. So I decided to go somewhere in the middle, and I started in the touring car discipline. And after that you can do further seasons in the same discipline, or you can switch to another discipline. And some of the disciplines have sort of multiple divisions within them. So the touring car one will have your modern touring cars, you know, different classes of touring cars there, Ginetta Racers, Renault Clio Cup, and even historic touring cars as well. And more cars are coming along in DLC gradually, so that's good. So yeah, I can't really show you what happens with that. You get like a video introducing you to the whole system for the career, and then it gives you the choice of where you want to begin, you know. So I can't really show you that now because it would mean sort of restarting my profile, but you know, it's probably clear enough anyway. It's not the sort of thing I need to demonstrate. I've already talked about this a bit. Obviously solo, you just make your own race weekend, so you get this screen here, you select your track. Something I will mention at this point, when you're selecting your track, and there is a good choice of tracks as well, you can use this screen, which is just a full sort of list, or if it's easier, which I think it is, you can press triangle or the equivalent on a different console to switch to this screen, which means that well, and it says daft, there aren't as many options on this screen because all of those different track layouts are organised into locations instead, which I think is a bit easier. So, for example, I might go to, let's have a look, say I go to Nürburgring. Once I've gone to Nürburgring, there'll be these different layouts, so that I think that's a much better system. You know, so you've got here Nürburgring GP, the Mullen backtrack, the sprint and the short sprint. Whilst if I selected it from here, if I switch to the other screen, then I get it like this. So I can still see them, but it doesn't show me the track layouts in the same way, and it's not really as clear. It does tell you the lengths and the number of turns and everything, but I much prefer doing it sort of this way, you know, going onto here and then seeing the layouts that way. It reminds me quite a lot of the system you used to have on F1 where you could see the track and it'd give you a bit of a rundown of it and everything, so I quite like that. Yeah, so that's that. You've got all your settings here, and I have to say a lot of the settings are quite extensive. So you've got obviously a number of laps. You can have quite a significant number of opponents. Now it depends what track you're on, and it depends what cars you're racing. But as you can see there, I've actually managed to ram that up to 35 opponents, which is pretty damn good. Yeah, I have to say the only other games I've seen, and I haven't really played many of them, but the only games I've seen where you can have that sort of number of cars is things like NASCAR, you know, loads of cars. But yeah, and you've got this as well, you know, types of opponents, so whether they're all in the same car, whether there's different classes of car, whether they're all in the same class, all that sort of thing. So you can have like a one-make race if you wanted to. The option for opponent skill is very good. You've got like this slider. I've got it set to about 70 at the moment. I could be wrong, I think it starts on 50, somewhere in the middle. But gradually I've been sort of upping my game a bit, and for certain classes sometimes I'll put it on 80, you know, if I feel like I'm up to the challenge. But when it comes to Le Mans prototypes, which I'm still yet to sort of master, you know, 70 will do for now. You got these other options, so the rolling start. This is another thing I should talk about. The good thing about this game, and this applies to offline and online, you've got the options of practice and qualifying as well. So you can have like a short practice session to get used to the track, a qualifying session which can, you know, be any sort of amount of time you want really. Usually 10 or 15 minutes is the best. Gives you about 5 to 8 laps depending on the size of the track. And you can, the warm-up I think is just like a quick lap or two before the race. I've not actually done that yet, never tried it, but I'm fairly sure that's what it is. Sort of like weaving around to get your tyres warmed up and everything. So that's that screen, and then over here, this is quite interesting too. Obviously your weather settings and your time settings. Now, on other games like Gran Turismo, you can set weather and time, but there are limitations as to what you can do on different tracks. Now, I'll give you an example. I remember playing on Gran Turismo 5 and 6, and if you raced on Laguna Seca, you couldn't change it to a night race. It was just one of those things. Don't know why, but you couldn't. However, on this game you can change the conditions on pretty much anything. So if I wanted to race Laguna Seca at night, I could. And that allows for sort of endurance racing if you really wanted to do it, you know, whether that's offline or online. So you've got these options, so fixed weather, you've got this sort of weather slot option where you can obviously have different weathers gradually through the race. If you wanted to start sunny and then gradually raining and then really heavily raining, you could do that if you wanted to. Now this is an interesting option and I'm a bit confused. This here says date type. So it's set to race date at the moment, the 29th of August, which I believe is the date today. But you can change it to custom and actually set what day and what month and what year. Now I don't really, someone told me, one of my friends was telling me that, and I don't know how they've managed to do this, but that option actually changes those conditions to the exact conditions at that track on that day. They must have an absolutely massive log of information to be able to do that, but that's quite impressive. And obviously you can set your time as well, so, and the rate at which time progresses, which will also affect how quickly different weather slots will come into play. So some really extensive options there. I think that's quite good. And then you've got probably the most interesting bit. Obviously, your menu of cars. The selection of cars in this game is quite varied. You've got road cars like the McLaren F1, the McLaren P1, this hatchback here, the A45 AMG. And you've also got racing cars. I mean, they put a lot of work into a game when you've even got a racing version of an Ariel Atom, if I can find it. Yeah, there it is. So that's quite cool. I remember seeing this on the trailer and thinking, right, that's made a very good first impression. Yeah, and there's your little carts as well. I think that one looks quite weird, but there we go. And just quickly, if I select a car, I say, I'll look at this one. This is a good example. So if I press triangle to go to my garage, I can look at this car. Well, once I'm on the right one, that is. Where is it? So, go on to here. So there's quite an extensive choice of liveries for all cars as well, which is very good. This is quite a nice one. I like that. I think it's Bilstein on a Bilstein suspension, I think. So there's that. Yeah, there's all sorts of different liveries. And I think you've got quite a lot of options here. Actual tuning settings, stiffness of the suspension, brake bias, brake sensitivity, downforce, all those sorts of things, tyre pressure, and then you've got a lot of options for what you do when you come into the pits. There is a facility for swapping drivers, but I've never used it yet. I think that might come into play for your endurance races. So, yeah, the selection of cars is really good, and they do bring cars into it as DLC as well. This one here, this Lykan Hypersport, which you might recognise from Fast and Furious 7, is the car that ended up crashing through all of those skyscrapers, which was ridiculous. This was a car that they gave out for free as DLC, and I think there was another one recently. I'm not sure what it is, but it's one of these RUFs. I'm not sure which one, but yeah. So yeah, the car choice is really good, the track choice is good. There are a couple of tracks that aren't there which I'd maybe want there, but you can't have it all, there are so many tracks. And it's even got things like, well, where is it? I can't remember the names escape me. What am I trying to think of? Oh yeah, that's it. Yeah, Donington. So you sort of touring car calendar tracks are on there too, which is really good. So yeah, Donington, Silverstone, Brands Hatch, Bathurst, some of the more unusual tracks you don't find on most games, so that's good. Yeah, so that's that section. Free practice section, the menu is exactly the same. This is actually, these settings here are actually from when I did the last free practice video I did, which was the Ariel Atom V8 on Hockenheim. I did okay, apart from going into the gravel once because I made a complete mess of one of the corners, but never mind. I'll just show you the online interface. So this is the menu you get if you go onto that block. You have a list of sessions and it gives you all the details. So it tells you the location, the vehicle category, the length. Right, when it says long and short, this is a very similar system. Again, something else that sort of parallels F1. A short weekend tends to just be a race. A long weekend tends to include practice and or qualifying and a race. And it tells you the status of the session, so whether they're in a race, whether they're in the lobby. Sometimes it'll also say if they're loading, which like this one here. So they're not in the lobby, but they're just coming into the race. So, and even if they are racing, a lot of the time you are also able to join their session. If it's a race, you can't, but if it's a qualifying, it still classes it as part of the race. You can join in midway through the session, still put a lap in if you've got time, and obviously you won't have quite as much chance as everyone else, but obviously you can, there's an option to refresh it if you wanted to. You can put filters on as well if you want to do something in particular. So say I only wanted to look at point-to-point races, then it would show me only those. So if I do this now, obviously there aren't many people doing point-to-points at the moment. They're not quite as popular on this game, but there's a couple there. Yeah, so the online interface is quite good, and I have to say the servers, although you do end up with a bit of lag, they run a lot more smoothly than they do on a lot of other racing games, and they've been working reasonably well since day one, unlike another game, Drive Club, which is it's a good game. You know, the graphics are good, but the online servers were awful, which would have been okay had it not been for the fact that Drive Club was mainly an online game, so that was very disappointing. They got it up and running, but I sort of lost interest. I haven't actually played on that game for a while.